Well, hello there, everybody. How you doing? A little smooth jazz by Diato. Yeah, gotta love that music. So, what's up, everybody? So good to see you on this Thursday, whatever day it is. It's we're here. So, nothing missing, nothing broken, right? Got great favor on our lives, and man, I'll just speak favor over all of us. How's that? Giving it to you in bunches. And as I go through here, going through, yes, that, and we're all set. So it's all groovy. Welcome, everyone. Again, thank you for tuning in. Thank you for being part of the show. Yeah, Paul Joe, a little sombra, I like a little bossa nova, And there's nothing better than to take your wife or your date, and you get a nice jazz concert, nice dinner afterwards, little candle. And yeah, so hey, that's the way I look at it. And it makes the world go by so much better, doesn't it? Bosto to all of us. Happy birthday if you got one. Farzana, happy birthday to you, dear. I know you have one on Saturday. And to the rest of everybody else, if I don't know your name, didn't call it out, well, the thought's there. So, all right. Let's see. We are a prospering. I mean, it's serious. Gilbert, I saw where you had a reading from a palmist and how it was spot on. Yeah, I know that feeling, when it's not general, it's really specific, because, there really is something to this. Palmistry has always been a fascination of mine. And I have noticed over the years that your palm lines changed. They move, baby, and they represent really where you are at. So yeah. Hey, Queen of Swords, what's up? Jackie, Deborah Sloan, Project Skyfall, Suzanne Colbert, and good to see you. DC Robert V is in the house. Thank you for the email. Shout out to you, brother. And I'll check it out. I just haven't at the time, but I will. Robert Scott, hey man, I appreciate you. We got some great people here. So yeah. Chloe, how are you? Isby, how you doing? So, Cheryl, good to see you. Joe Sapien. I remember some Greek god of wine, but where that god of weed? Well, weeds are everywhere. If you ever listen to Brewer and Shipley, they'll tell you weeds are everywhere. Just got to know where to look, right? Hey, Pamela, what's up? Good to see you. Elderberry, hello. Got me thinking. Yes. So, hey, Crafty Child, good to see you. I haven't seen you here before. Bonnie, good to see you. Lori as well. So on the ballot here in Colorado this November, legalizing magic mushrooms. Yeah. Oh, the times they be a-changing. That's all I got. King Oris Tarot reading, the Pisces channel. Good to see you, my friend. I haven't seen you before. Welcome. We speak favor over you. And our definition of favor here, favor is what the best of this realm, best of life has to offer. Nothing missing, nothing broken. That's how we do it. Jargo, good to see you, my friend. So, Grace, hello. Good to see you, man. There's so many people. Like tomorrow, won't be doing a show, actually going out and doing a little scouting location. Got a couple of places, I'm approaching this not with houses, but I think that caves, forest, other areas have just as many, how should we say, those who have crossed over and those who maybe never have crossed over. So that's what I will be doing. So John Price, good to see you. Legalize the cow poop. There you go. Exactly. Strange days we live in for sure. Yeah. So I'm looking forward to this. Yeah, this is like a whole new area. Again, I have some thoughts, and so going to be looking at some areas because I really do believe that from my days of when I was really into hallucinogenics, way back, way back, way back. I found my most profound experiences with the other realms out in nature, you know, whether it was along a river, whether it was on a surfboard outside of Surfside, Texas, and just tripping my ass off and having the dolphins swimming around you. Oh yeah, that's heavy. But anyway, my point is that I do believe that it's the open spaces of nature that I think that there is more the ability of contact than in a building, a former insane asylum, a prison. I mean, that's just got negative energy just all over it. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. Them pesky vampires. I mean, you think about it. Why would you go into an insane asylum that was responsible for torture and what have you? You're going right into a nest. That's what it is. And I watch so many of these shows and I think to myself, y'all have no idea. You're taking home hitchhikers is what you are. So, yeah, that's all I got. Hey, Donna D, good to see you. Happy Thursday to you as well. Jules, what's up, girl? Let's see. Off the hook. Good to see you as well. So, yeah. So I kind of figure it's like this. If you're going to go to where the energy is probably more neutral, I mean, you know, battlefields, that's a whole different situation. Where the ground has been stained with blood, that's vampirism. I mean, we're going to get into that really deep. And because this book I have, a great one, many of you are probably going to want to have, these vampires been around for a long time. If you go by strictly the evidence, what is vampirism? It's really the transmutation of energy. It's what vampirism is. And vampires who do exist have mastered the ability to transmute positive into negative and to take which is of the life energy itself, in this case blood. And remember, there's different types of blood. It's just not the physical, but we're talking the physical here. Yeah. Now I give you evidence as we start off today's discussion. Hello everyone in the chat room and everyone listening. So I present to you my evidence that says the gods of the worlds, whether any religion, most are vampires. Now that sounds radical. Even Jesus Christ was a vampire, master vampire, actually. And that sounds completely off the wall. Get it? Understand? I know. But bear me out just a few minutes, please, and I'll validate my point. The blood. We find out that the blood plays a very important role where we're concerned. Now, if you take the religious dogma, the blood is everything. The blood has been stained with sin. Now, we read of the first story of these vampires in the book of Genesis. Genesis 4, the story of Cain and Abel. It's the first story of vampirism that we're actually introduced with. Maybe earlier with Adam, but this one we can actually point to. Now you say, what do you mean, Wayne? The story goes Cain supposedly killed Abel. Well, actually the story is it was probably more of a sacrifice. But what was interesting was that the God of this realm said to Cain, said, your brother's blood cries out from the ground. It's a huge clue. Because even in Abel's passing of his physical death, this case in the grievous assault of murder, envy, pride, I mean, you can add all to it, we find that there is yet energy associated with the blood that apparently has consciousness. Otherwise, how could God understand Abel crying out from the ground who'd already been slain? Now, you carry this forward, it's always the blood. My next exhibit will be the covenant with Abram. who later became Abraham. That is a vampiric ritual, circumcision, probably of the most serious kind that you can get into. The shedding of blood, the consummation. Now, what's really interesting is the story goes that when Abraham initiated himself into this vampiric blood cult named Yahweh, Jehovah, God, Elohim, there was again the passing and the transmuting of blood. What did Abram do with the foreskin? Burned it as an offering. This is some deep, deep stuff, folks. I'm just presenting the evidence. We go further into this, whatever you want to call it, this probably what's taken us over are these beings that we see as angels and we call God and we sing these holy songs to a vampiric deity. Always the blood and always human blood. Now, when you talk about the shedding of blood, that within itself is a blood ritual. Now, the one thing we know about this vampiric god that people worship today is that all of its creations are vampires as well. And it covers the full gamut. But let's stick with the blood right here. We know, if you read in the book of 2 Samuel, the book of Chronicles, that Gabriel is a master vampire as well. Gabriel will feed upon the blood of humans. We have stories of him basically feeding upon the slaughter of 180,000 human beings in one night. Wow. That's some serious stuff. And let's continue going forward. So when Solomon, quote unquote, supposedly the wisest man ever, what did he do in the initiation? Well, actually, let's step back because we're talking vampiric gods, how human beings are tied to this blood ritual. It saturates us. Now, if you go and read about the demigods of the Canaanites, that which the children of Israel adapted for a period, they were just a bunch of whores. That's all they were, god whores. And Moloch. What did Moloch do? Well, Moloch fed off of the blood as well. In this case, infants, unborn children. This is no bullshit. But you see, we have been told and taught to interpret this and see this as a holy thing. Really? So let's get back to Solomon, the wisest man ever, right? So he builds this temple, right? It really was a power station. What did he command the children of Israel to do? For 7 days, they slaughtered animals. They said that the blood of animals ran off of the temple steps into the streets of Jerusalem for 7 days. It was not only oxen, it was the sacrifice of blood from the animal kingdom. We are from the animal kingdom. Let's talk about further. So the big one, the big kahuna in all of this is the blood ritual. It's a vampiric blood ritual that's called communion. Now, the whole foundation and pillars of communion is what? The drinking of the blood and the eating of the flesh. If you're looking for any type of modern day vampirism, it's right there. I'm not making this up. It's what it is. I participated in that sick blood ritual, thinking that somehow I was all holy, ordained of God, had Jesus lay his hand on me because I was taking the blood of Jesus Christ and I am eating his flesh. And because I can do that, I'm healed, I'm redeemed, I'm better than you. I have immortal life. Isn't that the promise of every vampiric ritual, right? Look at the modern day nomenclature of the whole thing of vampirism. Vampirism says the consumption of blood brings you immortal life. I'm not making this up. It's exactly what it is. Now, you can argue with me that, well, Wayne, it's a metaphor, it's an allegory. No, it's not. That is a goddamn lie. And you want to know why our race is so bloodthirsty? You want to know why we murder one another, we rape one another, we burn and pillage one another? Because it may very well be that the human Homo sapiens are nothing more than vampires. Oh, I know you're going to take your self-righteous position and say, well, I ain't no vampire. Who the hell are you talking to? I'm talking to you. Dean Koontz writes, every human being has the ability to murder. In fact, if you take the existence of our existence here is vampiric. We feed off of every living and dead thing here to extend whatever our mortal lives can be. And if we can find a particular advantage to stretch it out, we will do it. Scotty Boy says, I only murder on weekends. Exactly. I mean, folks, when are we going to grow up? When is the human race going to grow up and maybe start accepting and facing reality? Because where do we see today? Now, we talk about psychic vampirism. Doesn't matter. It's still feeding off of the blood. You see, your blood changes. If you're angry, you're going to have all sorts of different reactions within your blood. If you're happy, if you're joyous. Now, a psychic vampire, in fact, we're all psychic vampires. Now, people don't want to hear this, but it's a fact. If you transmute energy in meditation, yoga, however you want to do it, yeah. So where do we see in today's society the vast majority of psychic vampires? Well, number one, all ministers of any religion are in fact psychic vampires. Why? You stand up in that pulpit, and remember, pulpit is two words. It pulls you into the pit. So that is, and why? Because it's important that they get new converts. It's fresh meat, fresh blood. It adds to the psychic stew. Politicians, all politicians are vampires. Every one of them. There's not one good in the bunch. That's why they're drawn to politics. Politics is one of the pillars of vampirism. Why? The very act of being called a politician is that you are feeding off of the pain. You're ripping off these are all vampire characteristics. Interesting thing about UFOs and vampires. Well, you know what? If they take any bodily fluids from any human, it's a vampire. Military. Many of the top brass in the military are, in fact, vampires. Angels, demons. anything that is involved where human blood is concerned, I mean, the psychic energy, you think about politicians, that's exactly what they do. They're in a hell of there. Many of them are just conduits. They don't even realize it. But dirty, filthy money. I'm just reading that. This is hard stuff. I know, and it's radical. But I dare anyone, I challenge anyone to come in and counter. You tell me how communion isn't directly connected to vampirism. If your religion commands you to go and kill another human being, that's vampirism. And now it gets really weird because it almost as you turn around, maybe this is in fact a vampire planet. Think about it. Loretta, that is interesting. Listen, I've met some in this on my channel. They try to come in and manipulate the energy. Hey, if you understand where the energy actually originate from, you can take that energy and actually heal yourself. You can extend your life. Maybe a day, maybe a week, maybe a month, maybe a year. Some have learned to extend their lives hundreds of years. We know that Queen Catherine, what did she do? She bathed in the blood of humans. I mean, you go back and you look at the aristocracy of our race, the blood, always the blood. No getting around it. So check into the chat room. All right, so let me get right into it. So I want to go in a little different path because you see, it's interesting. If vampires did not exist, they do now. We created them for real. You see, at some point, we're going to realize, look at what this group did collectively. Last week, we were talking heat. That's all you saw all around the world. Heat, 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 heat. We got involved. Today, I'm having to wear long sleeves. Why? Because it's like about 30 degrees colder than what it should be outside right now. Rained. Oh, man, we got like an inch and 0.7 inches of rain last night. This group is powerful, and we focus in on Texas. We're going to break the back of that one too. But my whole point to this is that we created. I did. Let's see. Why is that not? Well, this is odd. Okay. As he goes in and he's saying, well, wait a minute. That ain't right. Let's see. Wow, this is really odd. Now, let's see. Well, how odd. But well, we may not even have that opportunity. Well, as he says, this isn't what it's supposed to be. What the heck is going on here? Always something. Well, as I was going to share, but it's suddenly like it just doesn't want to share. Let's see. Let's see if I can get that going. Okay. Talk amongst yourselves as I try to work out what is the problem. Well, it's always one thing leading to the other, isn't it? So let's see. I'm assuming you can see that. Can y'all see that? Let me go over here. And I can see myself. So this is a cool book. We're going to get into this one a little bit more. So at the foundation of this, and we're going to be getting into it a lot more, is this is really, we know what we see. This is a cool book. We're going to get more into it, but I wanted to establish that the fact is that we know what we see. If I can see it, then I know that it's real, right? Supposedly. So this is a cool book, not that long. It's called Vampire's Way to Psychic Self-Defense. And, you know, we all know, we've all been around those situations where you can walk into a room. How many of us have been in business meetings? And there's one individual, I found it many times, but they collect where there is a lot of positive energy. So let's get into this. By the way, I love some of the drawings on this. And boom, boom, I just realized what I can do. So let me do this. So as you can see, and as I go over here, want to make sure that y'all can see it too, or if it's just going to like stop. There it is. Okay. So here is something I thought was really interesting. Cryptozoology, it's a pseudoscience. It's not associated with any zoology or anything like that, but it's very interesting. I did not realize that the creationists have embraced cryptozoology because it actually validates a lot of their belief systems. And my point to all this is that we find more and more today as we get into these virgin forests where humans aren't, we're finding that, well, it's not just Bigfoot that's out there. There apparently seems to be an entire species, genesis of cryptids, animals that we have no idea about. We know this as well. Hold on one second. Dancer, stop. Dancer's right at my foot, dreaming. Yeah, there you go. But because our cameras are everywhere. These beings, I don't know what they are, but they have been filmed all over the world. They exist out in the woods. That's why I'm going to go out there. Mothman. This recently is now being sighted again in the West Virginia area. We see humanids that have either met with a unfortunate demise, were transmuted into something, but they're not quite human. And we don't know what goes on in the dark, in the forest. We're not there all the time. But apparently it's now encroaching into the cities, suburbia. We're now finding out that we truly aren't alone. Now, what are they? I don't know. They're obviously something. A whole different race of, species. And many of these things, for instance, when we start talking about, modern day, the Wraith, what is this? Now, it is said in the folklore that these beings didn't exist until modern day culture began to create them. Now we're finding them. And if you look at that one, it's casting a shadow. So it's, what are these creatures? You tell me. And how much you want to bet most of them feed off of blood? of some kind. Would this make them vampiristic? Again, what are these creatures? And they're all over the world. We find humans, what look to be humans, that are not at all. Half human, half whatever, animal. And sometimes, because we have been trained to be blind, many of these creatures can stand right next to you in the woods and you may not even know they exist. This creature here, again, all over, has wings. What is it doing? It's feeding off blood. And whether it be human blood or animal blood. Things in the forest. That's just plumb ass weird. I don't know what the hell to even think of this. And we know, now this is not just pareidolia. It's actually something in the film. What is that? Is that human? I would say it'd probably be more vampiristic the way it looks. Again, I just put these out here to show you that there are strange things coming out of the film industry. I know that, you look here and you can get the shadow where the light is. This is quite interesting and it follows everything around it. So I don't know what that was. Got no idea. Got no idea what that is. But they exist. Did we create these? And what's going on here? I mean, that looks almost part arachnid. Strange stuff. So I don't know. My point to all this is if these exist, then why do we find it so difficult in accepting that there is something out there that has most likely been feeding off of us from the very beginning? And again, we capture them all the time. Not quite human. Not really sure what to think of some of these. West Virginia. I mean, this Mothman has been around for a very long time, and we've caught it recently even more. And again, here's this creature again. I've shown you multiple pictures in multiple locations. I don't know what it is. It's after something. In the rake, what are these creatures? What are they? Everywhere. But we're told none of this actually exists. Okay, give me 1 second here. So, okay, let's do that. Now I'm back. And we'll get back to where I was here in our book. So I hope y'all saw that. It's acting rather odd. Okay. There we go. Okay. But so in this book, table of contents, but what if I'm not a vampire? White light doesn't always work. Predator or prey, dealing with personal negative energy. This is a good book. Putting it all together, negative energy from others, protecting yourself from foreign energy, fighting off predatory, non-organic beings. True, they exist. And this is a good book to have in your collection. And I'll just read just a few little excerpts from this. It says, while our beautiful oasis seen from space might look balanced and beautiful, taking a closer look, we realize that there is much imbalance within it. Don't we know? Thoreau wrote, "Men lead lives of quiet desperation. We strive and strain our entire lives looking for that place where we will be happy and without worry. Negativity infects our souls, and those courageous enough to fight against it are almost always fighting a losing battle. We are told to stay happy and be positive, that in this way we shall counteract the forces that darken our lives. Many of us strive, therefore, to live up to these positive ideals, but find that we are forever battling our minds, feeling like there is a dark cloud deep within us that will not let us experience true joy for long. When we then begin to believe that darkness and negativity must be our lot as men, because even when we try to see the positive and steel our minds upon joyous outcomes, we are compulsively led back into gloom and doom." And here's my point, folks. The news is a vampiric construct. And the reason why it's 24/7, there was a time when our species, before the advent of television, radio, where the influence of the mind was more local. And again, many ministers of the gospel are vampires by their very nature. And if you will look back and check me out on this, go back in the 1800s, who was the central power point typically within a small community? It was always the church. Always. And you have some of the most perverted, reprobated men that held these positions in these pulpits. They were nothing more than sexual predators, pedophiles for a great deal of them. And pedophilia is directly connected to vampirism. It's one of the, you like think about the energy source. But could it be that there is a way to overcome the endemic negativity that fills our lives? Could it be that we all miss the boat? And our lives are so busy. Everybody's got somewhere to go. Everyone's got something to do. Yeah, slow down. Right? You move too fast. Got to make the morning last. Okay, so could it be that instead of becoming the docile creatures that we are, living in our ever-shrinking cages, we were actually supposed to become fearsome predators? According to ancient vampires, the answer is yes. Within these pages, you will discover how you can take all that negativity that you have projected, that is being projected upon you right now, and feed off of it. You will learn about ancient techniques that will allow you to take advantage of a little clause in the contract of life, a little clause that asks you to become a predator, but not a predator of other people, a predator of the negative energy and negative entities that mess up your life. It will show you how creatures that I refer to as ancient vampires discovered a way to fight against the negative current of this world and succeed in becoming extremely powerful and happy. You got to stop there a second. Because the content here, the context is that the author here is saying, well, wait a minute. Maybe all vampires are not what we think. Maybe they're actually good. And would it not make sense? Because everything in this realm, everything in our culture is inverted. Always the deception. So if we're taught that you are to be killing vampires, and we can extrapolate that out, but here's the deal. What if it's been on purpose that we've been taught that they're bad, they're evil? What if, in fact, they are the good guys, the good gals? As children, we are told a great lie. We are told that there are no monsters in this world. Well-meaning parents trying to stifle a child's bedtime fears tell their children that there are no monsters under the bed or in the closet. They like to tell their children that there are no monsters on the planet, that they have nothing to fear from what lurks in the dark. As we grow up, We also believe that there are no monsters as well. We embody the ideal set forth by our great reasoning minds that we are an apex predator who has conquered all those things that would prey upon us. Science, after all, tells us that we are on top of the world, a conquering species that has become the most successful group of beings on this planet. But yet we're ruled by fear. Fear is what we feed off of. Fear is what we're fed. Almost from day one when we come into this world. Your parents all fed you fear. Your teachers fed you fear. The politicians feed you fear. The ministry, the gospel, all of them, they feed you fear. And so when you're told, well, no, you're supposed to be happy, you're going, but wait a minute. You taught me that I'm supposed to be afraid. Because the truth is, folks, we're not an apex creature. We're more afraid. We're afraid of our own shadow. We're afraid of the dark. Now, it may go back to 1,000,000+ years ago when our ancestors were in the dark caves to keep them from not being ate, Of course, there are no things that go bump in the night, science tells us. Certainly, we would be able to measure these things in the laboratory if they did. Sure, we live in a tiny little blue oasis in the middle of nowhere, surrounded by empty space. In the mechanistic universe that cares not at all for us, but at least we are safe. This is the promise that science makes to all of our fearful hearts. That's why you're supposed to believe what the government tells you. You're supposed to believe what the teacher, you're supposed to believe all the experts. What we find out today, there are no experts. None. But how, seriously, when you start trying to, I ain't going down the road, but how self-centered and childish are we? Faithfully believing that if we can't see it or measure it, it does not exist. This is the typical rational approach to reality, and it is one that we are all well taught to believe and embody from the time we are born. But we all know deep down in ourselves that we are the masters of very little. A part of us knows that within the darkness there lurks the unseen, that which is beyond our reasoning mind, and therefore sheer terror. An ever-growing number of us are learning in a very direct way that there are things that go bump in the night. Whether you wish to call them demons, poltergeists, surreal cryptids, or perhaps even extraterrestrials or transdimensional entities, these creatures are real, and they seem to be increasing in numbers. The portal is open. It's broken. It was at one time we could close it off. Not anymore. In this book, you will discover how to fight back and not only repel these negative entities, but also how to prosper from their negativity. You will find out why most of the psychic self-defense techniques that are being lauded today by so many occult writers today do not work. And you will discover what really does work. In this book, you will discover the vampire's way to psychic dominance over all the negative forces that would beseech you. I mean, let's just take it in another point of view. If you're a conqueror, an overcomer, a master, then you are also a master predator. You've had to face that which opposed you, and you had to be stronger than that which the force that was coming against you. And then not only did you have to repel it, but you had to what? Either destroy it or consume it. Unfortunately, most people consume the wrong kind, as we know. Chapter 1, and again, I'm just going to go down. But what if I'm not a vampire? I'm certain that the first question on your mind will be, do I have to be a vampire in order to use their methods of psychic self-protection? The answer to that is most definitely no. When I was writing the introduction to this book, it was very difficult for me to decide on what the approach to take. This is a book written for the average person, and that I'm not trying to appeal to a certain audience that is only interested in vampire culture or vampire lore. This book was written for those who are currently living in a somewhat negative atmosphere. This book was written for those that are experiencing misfortune at the moment because they are either flooded with negative thoughts and emotions from themselves and others, or because they are being attacked by ethereal creatures that could only be called paranormal. We're not alone. We know this. I had someone write me and said, why the hell are you going out there and wanting to go chase ghosts? I'm not chasing ghosts. Not at all. Because I want to prove something to myself. And if that bothers you, well, I'm sorry. I don't have that hang up. I'm not afraid of that ghost. I'm not afraid of that demon. I'm not afraid of that angel. I'm not afraid of that God. If death is the worst that can happen, well, hell, what's the big deal about that? And then I'll find out for sure what's on the other side, won't I? But I love how this person approaches this. He writes, he says, my need to present this information with a vampiristic perspective arises from the fact that this knowledge truly does come from individuals that practiced and developed vampiric techniques in order to extend their lives and acquire power. Yeah. How come is it that some politicians, some entertainers, others why is it that they seem to live longer? Outlive all those around them? Did they find out something? It would not be just for me to present this information with some kind of new age angle, completely leaving out the source of this information, or pretending that this information comes from some kind of purely loving approach to life in the world. This information was gathered and developed by people interested in surviving a hostile world. In order to survive in such a world, they needed to develop predatory instincts and predatory claws. All of us are predators. You wouldn't be where you are if you weren't. Because if you'd been defeated, you'd be dead. Kind of puts it in a different light. So that love thing, is love predatory? Is it? Is love vampiristic? Think about it. Boy, we get so boxed in, don't we? Sometimes it's good that this reality melts away. The second reason for wanting to present this information using a predatory approach, the approach that was held by those that developed this knowledge, is my desire to be able to properly teach the methodologies needed to transmute negative energy of all sorts into positive personal power and positive energy. In other words, the predatory stance that I speak about and employ throughout this book is used as a way to teach how to transmute what would be considered unusable negativity into positive and powerful energy. I mean, if you can walk into a room where negativity is the single force and you take it on as a personal challenge that you're going to consume it, you're going to decimate it, you're going to suck the very life out of the negative energy, people will begin to know, or at least begin to wonder, what are you? Why do you know this? And how do you do it? It's palatable. In other words, you need this predatory stance in order to transmute energy for your benefit. When I use the word transmute, I'm indeed talking about the alchemical process. In order to perform this transmutation of negative energy, therefore, one must take on some of the attributes of those that developed this methodology to begin with. When I speak of vampires, those that I call the ancient vampires, I am speaking of a very specific kind of vampire. I am speaking of the once was human vampire, a type of psychic vampire, perhaps the only true organic vampire on the planet. They do walk among us. They can take possession of people. Now, we'll call it demons, but folks, come on. How is a demon that believes in the name of Jesus Christ How in the hell is that real? Come on, grow up. It has to be something else. If you're thinking, how about the vampire bat? Well, you must realize that a vampire bat does not take blood and turn it into a special kind of energy that will allow it to live for a longer than its biological can withstand, than biology can withstand. A vampire bat is a biological creature that feeds on blood as a source of food, just like a cow eats grass or a lion eats a zebra or you eating your steak. Certainly a beautiful, strange, and eerie creature, but one that we cannot, it's not paranormal. When most people think of vampires, they think most likely of the many iconic images that Hollywood has created, Bela Lugosi. These vampires are usually depicted as good-looking zombies of sorts that need to drink blood in order to survive. These are highly romantic and passionate figures that seem to be forever on the lookout for love in order to withstand the terrible loneliness of immortality. Then why do you want immortality? If it's lonely and has no love and you got no friends, why? This is not the kind of vampire I'm talking about in this book. You are probably aware of the fact that there are many out there who would love to become vampires. Perhaps you know that there are many individuals that like to dress like vampires, act like vampires of the popular Western culture. Some of these fun and highly creative people create communities where they can hang out and exchange ideas. It's goth. That's all that is. Some even believe that they must drink human blood in order to stay healthy and appease a terrible hunger within themselves. This is true. And perhaps they are correct in these assumptions. This, though, is not the vampire that I'm talking about. And in fact, I was reading late last night that, wow, in Hollywood, this is the thing. In Silicon Valley, in Austin, Texas, in Boston, Massachusetts, and in Washington, D.C. It seems that there is now a resurgence of groups of people coming clandestinely together under the cloak of darkness where they are drinking one another's blood. Yeah. And the other interesting thing about these little clique groups, some are the richest and most powerful people in the world that are involved in it. Interestingly, though, within this highly creative group of vampire lovers, there is a group that are beginning to discover old truths. Through their own creative efforts and work, they are beginning to tap into an old current, rediscovering a tradition that has existed for thousands of years within the human realm. These highly creative vampire lovers have discovered that the true human vampires, the real death defiers, do not drink blood at all, that they actually drink the subtle energy within all living things. These ancient creatures are the vampires that I'm talking about in this book. I think one of the best depictions of this was when Tom Cruise redid the Mummy. And if you remember, the goddess Isis, when she came back from a mummy, what did she have to do? She sucked the energy right out of people until she took that energy as part of her own. Check it out. In the old and ancient civilizations, they were referred to as sorcerers and magicians. Sometimes they were referred to as alchemists and necromancers. In reality, they were highly practical creatures who discovered great power following their one true desire, to defy death. We're going to talk a little bit more about challenging death. Many of us have. Oh, it never stops. It always comes back. True vampires, those that would defy death, learned to drink and employ the subtle energy that exists all around us. This vampiric tradition is thousands of years old. Some of the oldest texts on the subject, for example, can be found in China, where the Taoist alchemists speak of the collection and redistribution of chi in order to prolong life and create the Philosopher's Stone, or pearl, as it was sometimes called in China, which would guarantee immortality. This tradition is, of course, far older than ancient China, and there are inklings of it in many shamanic cultures from all around the world. The Iceman found the Ozodal Alps, for example, was covered with more than 50 tattoos that were placed perfectly along the meridian acupuncture lines. This shows that the advanced knowledge of body energetics were known in Europe well over 3,300 years ago. Wow. India is full of stories of these old vampiric beings that learned to defy death. On the book that we did, the Pocketful of Miracles, the book, we found out that there are yogis over there that claim to be 2,000-3,000 years old. India, while the ancient Chinese traditions can essentially be called alchemy, the Indian traditions were far more in tune with what we here in the West would call the Goetia. Seemingly dissimilar external, both of these methods were and are in actuality ways of reorganizing energetic currents within the human body. Many of the yogic techniques, especially those found in the Kundalini yoga, come from these old traditions. India is full of stories of people that have lived for hundreds of years that could exist without the need to eat hardly any regular food. These old traditions found all over the world state that all things are energy-based. Human beings are born with a certain amount of energy and create a certain amount of energy within their own bodies as they go through their lives. Unfortunately, human beings, along with most other organic life, are full of holes. Energetically, we are like a bucket that has many leaks. And as a result, the energy that we are naturally born with and the energy that we create are usually not enough to maintain a healthy life for long. Beyond this, it is understood that we do not live in a static environment, but that we prey upon the world and are preyed upon by other life forms as well. Right now, all of our bodies, how many different life forms are living inside of us? Yeah. We live in a highly complex and savage ecosystem. Ancient vampires believed, therefore, that in order to maintain vigor and health, we must learn to take life energy from the world around us. We must seal up the many energetic holes that we have, and we must redistribute our untapped energetic resources in the most practical way possible. Moreover, through special techniques that were discovered by these ancient vampires, lives can be greatly extended through the creation of the golden elixir, and eventually even immortal life is possible through the manipulation of the great stone. This is done by using the Philosopher's Stone, the great pearl, to create the energy body, or double, which can survive organic death. And I see I'm running out of time. Okay, I hope you liked it. It's a good book. Okay. Whew. All right. This is a totally different approach. Hey, thank you for hitting up the like button. Feed the algorithm, right? It's a vampire. Feed it its energy, right? It's interesting. And if you want to come on and do a panel discussion, this is a completely inverted 180-degree different approach of vampirism. Boy, we find out a lot of that stuff here, don't we? Woo! Okay. Well, I hope you found this one entertaining. Thank you, Mary Wins. And when you read this, and we'll continue to read it, and if you want the book, you should get it. It's not that big of a read, but I read it all last night, and I'm sitting there going, oh, really? And then you start taking some of the pieces that you've learned, and you collect them, and you've got them in your little arsenal in your bag, and you're going, oh, really? And then you begin to realize those people that you've met and you always suspected, You go, oh, really? I should have worn the cape today. Well, I know this. We definitely kicked over some sacred cows. Holy crap. I mean, I call Jesus Christ a vampire, but by the very definition, he is. I didn't say it. They did. Okay. All right, folks. I do adore all of you. Thank you. You make my day. And wow. So I won't see you tomorrow. Again, I'm going to go out and I'm serious about this. This is something I really want to do. And eventually, I know, Gilbert, you say you like to join me. I'll get, once I get in, if you happen to have a place and you live along here in the Front Range in the Denver area, email me. Love to get together with you. And if you're following on the same vibe I am, I think like open fields, forest, wooded areas, that is the place I want to conduct my investigations. Julie, just email me. I'll be more than happy to. I got the PDF. Yeah. Susie Q, love right back at you. Dirty, filthy money. Yeah, just pour all that on top of me. I mean, come on. What is it? Pressed down, shaken together, and running over. Men shall give into your bosom. And so what that comes from is that back in the day, everyone wore robes, because of the climate. So pressed down meant exactly what it does. It's pressed down by the oxen, running over. And what it means of the bosom is that you would hold your robe like this in front of you and form a circle with it, and they would pour grain or whatever into it. That's where that expression comes. What's the email? SteigerRWayne@gmail.com. Pandemic, love to come by and do an investigation. Well, fine. Again, we'll do some planning on this. And yeah, I think that this would be a whole new area. Isn't it interesting? I don't see any shows that go out into the forest. We know that trees are spirits. Why wouldn't the trees speak to us? They spoke to our elders. Well, some of our elders. Some weren't really sure. All right, everybody. Have yourself coming up to North Minnesota. They say Bigfoot runs around here. I've heard that. Am I minded? I've heard that. Who knows? We may start doing the Steiger Magical Mystery Tour. How about that? Aurora, good to see you. Love to you. Much. I haven't seen you in a while. Bonnie, thank you. William, all right. Vampire's Cookbook. A friend wrote this on Amazon. I'll have to check that out for sure. All right, folks. I'll see you on Monday. Have yourselves a fabulous time. Saturday, Sunday. I hate to say the weekend, and I know it's WEEK, but every time I see it, it's WEAK. There has to be, it should be the strong end. If it's our day, right? They give us one day, right? It should be the strongest day of the week. Kaz Hawk, much love to you, honey. Let's get you on next week. So let me know. All right, folks. Thanks for hitting the like up button, and love the one you're with. That is you. And then you can love the rest of the world and love one. That's right, Mary. That is absolutely right. All right. Peace out, everybody. Much love to you. Talk to you soon.